Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of M.A.Y.A. My ambition, your ambition. For all you know, I definitely have a passion when it comes to sharing information. And some of my past shows that I've done, like the M.A.Y.A show, allowed me to expand and share the things that I have learned through the course of my personal and professional life. For many of you know, I work in mental health, but I've also had a very unique career journey that has put me in many different fields, and I've amassed a lot of great and useful information. And I always seek to be able to share that information. So in this new project that's really been in the working for me, I've been rolling it around for a good year. I wanted to find another way to deliver the information that I have stored in my heart and my mind with people who follow me and often share similar passions. So M.A.Y.A, acronym My Ambition, Your Ambition, is my new project to do just that. And with that being said, it'll be a definitely shorter format. The first episode is a podcast. There will be some portions of this that will be live at times because I'll be incorporating guests to speak to the areas where I want to kind of put an expert opinion beyond my own with it. Because, within the realm of this conversation, we're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing. So with that being said, ambition. This first episode is going to really dive into what I feel is the groundwork, the blueprint of what you need to kind of start thinking about as you're working towards kind of moving towards the goals and dreams that you've always wanted to have or aspire to. What's unique about M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, is that this particular project for me is always going to be fresh, forward thinking. That's something that I take pride in, is trying to be forward thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you with those salient topics and that are often impacted by how self-sabotage or even self-doubt can keep you from gaining the satisfaction and success in your life that you seek. This is where this steps in as a show to kind of, I guess you could say, be your motivational coach in those areas where you often have self-doubt or self-sabotage, mainly because it's probably more about a lack of information than it is about the desire to do better. Let's put ambition, since it's a large part of what drives this show, into perspective. Ambition, by all definitions, if we used Webster's dictionary, is a strong desire to do or achieve something. It has synonyms for words we use all the time, like goal, purpose, planning, mission, and the big word, dream. But what's important about ambition is thinking beyond the idea of it just being a dream. And it really becomes a plan. Being more than just purpose, it's something that takes action. So you want ambition to begin to translate into an action plan for you. And for something to be an action plan, you often really need to have a blueprint. And part of what I want to discuss specifically in this first episode is what I like to feel are the basics, understanding you where you're at and what's going on around you. One of the things I think it's key to talk about is the many roles that you play or the hats that you wear in your lives. We can call them relationship realms. You have that personal realm. Well, I'm going to say that's the all about you realm. It's about your individual needs, desires, and wants and how you manage to either pursue them or not pursue them. Having an understanding of what it is that you want to achieve for yourself personally, whether it be in the other roles that you play, is really important, and how you can achieve those things and get the satisfaction and have success. Because that's where this ambition part is supposed to translate from. The other piece, the next realm that's important, is that what I would call private realm. That private realm is family and very close relationship with friends. Those friends that you feel like are family. That's key. Understanding what is your role in those relationships. In your family, are you the person that's the go-to person? Are you the person that people run to when they need help or want advice or insight into something? Are you often carrying more burden in relationships in your family than you should? Do you feel like I have a host of other people that could be helping out with this particular situation in my family life, and yet I'm the person I feel like that's carrying a brunt of the responsibility? And it's not that I mind being responsible, but I like for there to be a bit more balance. Because remember, balance is the other thing in ambition you have to learn to strike. And you have to be able to identify when there's imbalance and how that affects you. So that private realm of friends and family, those relationship realms, are really important to make sure that you understand. Your professional realm, that means your work life. Those relationships you have there with peers, bosses, things of that nature. But more importantly, in your professional realm, in those relationships, are they fulfilling for you? Do you feel that you're getting from your job, the choice that you've made, or maybe you didn't make, is it fulfilling for you? Does it give you satisfaction? Do you have success? And is there real value from that? Because within each one of these realms, the things that you do should bring value to your existence and relationships. The other part are what I call pervasive relationships. It's the pervasive relationship realm. And it's more the general common relationships that you may have people that you would say they're friends, but not in that real context of those private relationships that you have. You respect them, you like them, you may hang out with them, but there's a different type of interaction you have with them opposed to those more meaningful relationships. What's important is, have you ever taken the time to identify these different relationship realms? And if you have you even begin to put them in a perspective, kind of go look through that looking glass to say, this relationship is healthy, this relationship isn't healthy. What should I do about it? But more importantly, how do these relationship realms impact you on that personal level? The other thing that's important to understand about relationship realms, and often in psychology and mental health, you may hear words like ecosystems, microsystems, because these realms have different purpose throughout your life and different functions. One of the earliest, obviously, relationship realms is that family and friend realm. Totally often shapes your personal realm. You're a child, so you want to mimic. We call it scaffolding, where a child will watch what they see adults do and they may mimic or imitate it because they assume that's the behavior they should have. Many people go through life continually mimicking things that are not healthy because one, they don't know, but two, even when they remotely get insight and enlightenment, change is hard. You will hear me say, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, and that's not my coined phrase, but I love it because it's true. The minute something challenges you, you have to ask yourself, what do you do with it? Pitbull, because I'm a big fan of Globalization Radio on Sirius XM, always have these different vignettes. He talks about his motivation, his ambition, and people who have influenced him. And he has an acronym for fear that I think is fantastic because people react to it two different ways. He's like, fear. The acronym is face everything and rise, or face everything and run. Which person are you when you're faced with something that's fearful or it's adversity? Do you face it and deal with it so you can move forward and you grow because you've learned? Or do you see the situation, you run from it because you don't want to acknowledge and address it, refusing only to know that it will come back again and it will always be the thing that dominates you because you won't address it? Acronyms can be very, very powerful. So fear, that's another one. I love it. Face everything and rise, or face everything and run. What kind of person are you? Discovering of self in this first realm is a huge part of the ambition you should be seeking as an adult. Now, when we're younger and we're going through various stages of development, each one of these realms exists. There's you as you're developing your personality and character and learning who you are, often through family and friends, relationship and interactions. There is no real professional, unless we say that professional realm is you're a professional student for a certain part of your life. So what kind of student are you? Are you pursuing, are you doing the things when you're learning that make you successful? Has your learning experience, whether it was primary, secondary, tertiary, whatever the case may be, what kind of experience for you? Because a lot of people, believe it or not, if they failed at being successful students, because within our respective society, being a good student is often looked at as a benchmark of what you're going to be as a successful adult. Well, we also know that many people don't excel in school for different reasons because there's so many outside influence that can impact if you're going to be a good student or not. But in our society, education is pegged to be one of the most important things that you should be successful at, and hence have an ambition to be, to achieve and do well. So when you're younger, may not be a professional realm from you unless eventually you become old enough to get a job and you begin to have those experiences. So often being a student for a long time for many of us, at least in our formative and a little bit after years, become the time that we actually learn more about ourselves and our outside private relationships. And then those pervasive ones, as a child, you probably have way more pervasive, good or general relationships than you realize. and not as many close friendships. We come to understand the value of friendship as we mature through life and have experiences. And, there's another great saying that's not mine, but often people come into your life for a reason or a season. And often we become very angry when maybe relationships end in ways that we prefer for them not to. We lose someone what we feel is prematurely, and we're not ready to accept that loss. Well, I always like to say, people come into our lives for reasons or a season. And the thing is, figure out, it may be both. A person may have been a part of your life to challenge you, to help you to grow emotionally, mentally, maybe even financially. It might have been an influence that way. And then they're gone. Or that relationship would seem so strong and that was thriving and you couldn't imagine that it would ever have an ends. And you're like, well, I don't understand what happened. Well, maybe that person was just meant to be in your life for a season. They came in to share something with you. We often take adversity. And we're currently in a time right now with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a huge adversity and it's a setback. And I'm challenging people. What has it changed about you? More importantly, what has it illuminated in your life? Were you that person that was living paycheck to paycheck? Were you that person that actually made decent money but squandered it poorly and now you're struggling financially? Or are you that person that you're okay because you were working, maybe you're not working, but you did well with your finances, so you're going to be okay? Or you're that person that maybe isn't impacted. There's so many scenarios going on with this. You have to determine where you are within that continuum of the pandemic experience to figure out, what has this illuminated? What do I not want to pay attention to in this process? Because I'd rather kind of focus on, oh my God, this is devastating. Woe is me. I'm not happy. No one's happy about this situation. Let's just start with that. It's an unfortunate circumstance that we've all been thrown into, but some of us are in different circumstances within the situation itself. I challenge everyone, figure out specifically what is your situation, which creates the circumstance, and then begin to deconstruct it. It doesn't mean that you can't rise from this like a phoenix and learn something. But it's interesting how people would rather recoil and complain than say, I will not let this set me back. Now, there are some people that were already behind the curve, to be honest, and were already overwhelmed. So for them, this is everyday life. They're like, these people are struggling, but I've been like this forever. It's interesting how adversity can really open our eyes to a larger picture in life. As they say, can you see the forest for the trees? You're listening to M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, my new project that's all about ambition and ways to achieve it. It's about identifying what your ambition is. Because remember, ambitions are goals and dreams and plans. And then figuring out ways to definitely create the motivation that you need to be able to find satisfaction in your life and have success that you seek. That's what M.A.Y.A is all about. So each podcast, like I said, will be roughly 30 minutes, and I'm going to be bringing in guests, what I feel are far more expert in different realms than I am, to help you kind of figure out where are you at in regards to understanding these relationship realms that you have, whether it's the relationship with yourself, whether it's a relationship with your family and close friends, whether it's your professional relationships, whether it's those pervasive, those more general or common relationship that you have. Understand within relationship realms, this is another really big piece of the puzzle. And I always encourage people, as you kind of listen to this podcast, it's the first time, grab some coffee, grab pencil and paper. Not that I think I'm going to be ever always enlightening, but I may say something every now and then that'll strike a chord and say, that's worth thinking about. Occasionally, you may hear me sip some coffee, just because. This is a really laid-back project for me that I'm enjoying, and I wanted to make the most of. And I didn't want it to be so perfect and overly professional. I wanted to be intimate and personal with people who decided they wanted to take this journey with me. Because for as much as M.A.Y.A is a journey for me, I'm also hoping it can be a journey for others to help them to achieve and grow in ways that they feel like maybe they've missed. So I like to think that we're walking through this journey together, and this first episode is about the blueprint, understanding your realms. The other thing that I think is important to understand about the realms that I discussed a little bit earlier is that realms have different levels of importance, and this is the really key thing to understand. For some people, the personal realm is always the struggle. It's always going to be there. And you can't undermine it or think that it's underimportant or undervalue it. Because I will tell you this, and people that have had different adversities that have managed to overcome them will tell you, the minute that they began to love themselves, it was easier to be more successful and to love others. People who consistently invest in others more than themselves are afraid to pull back the veil of self-doubt, the veil of disappointment, the veil of self-sabotage, because they figure I can gain some form of satisfactions for others loving me, even if I can't love myself. So we're always going to be pulling back the veil of self-doubt, a lack of self-determination, and more importantly, self-sabotage. Because once you can look behind the veil, the curtain, and see what's back there, it's the first time you can step through it and address your fear. And opposed to being the person who's been facing everything and running, you can face everything and rise instead, and put your fears behind you to get the motivation that you need to acquire the satisfaction and success you look for in your life as a whole. But when I talk about the realms not having equal importance, a lot of this has to do with where you're at in your life stage. You know, if you are experiencing success, and I'm assuming most of my listeners are probably within my age realm. I may gonna grab some 30-somethings in there, probably lots of 40s, maybe some 50s. That's what I think my demographic is listening to this. So I'm not speaking to this like you haven't had life experience. I am speaking to this as that you have. And it's important to be able to dissect those life experiences to determine how they've impacted you. I'm going to take a 2-second so I can sip my coffee here and let you think about that. So, with that being said, the demographic I'm speaking to definitely has some life experiences that they can dissect in each one of these realms and determine how they've been impacted. So when I said that these relationship realms, remember they're the personal realm, that's all about you. There's that family, that private realm, which is the family, friends that you hold close and dear. There's that professional realm, which is about peers and bosses and how you interact with those relationships. And the pervasive realm, the P's. So it's personal, private, professional, and pervasive. And pervasive is those more general common relationships you have outside, or it could be inside those realms. The thing that's interesting about the pervasive realm, which is something I've coined for myself, is that just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean there's a deep, blood is thicker than water type relationship. No, I'll tell you this. There are individuals within my family that I don't particularly care for. I'm very clear about. Just because I'm related to you does not mean I have to deal with your drama or garbage, because I will not. I will not let you be emotionally abusive to me. I will not let you be, mentally abusive or verbally abusive to me just because we happen to be related. That means you're taking for granted that something that should be a blessing, you've now made into a curse. So just know, even within your respective private family or friends, all friends are not close friends. This is why that pervasive group kind of can exist for you. Some family members that you keep at arm's length. Hey, bro. Hey, sis, love you. But I know the drama that you bring to the table and I'm not doing it with you. I'm just not in love with you the way I might be in love with other people in my family. And there's no shame in the fact that you don't love people equally within your family. Because is it not safe to say that we may have stronger bonds and relationships with different people in our family than we do with others based on experience? Experience is more about time invested and what comes of that time, the richness and the depth of the connection we create with people. So I don't think that we should always feel like we have to be the greatest family member to everyone, because if the time was never invested, then guess what? The roots will never grow, which means what flowers, what blossoms, that tree that sprouts forth may not be the strongest. And there's no guilt in that. We can't have 100% awesome relationships with everyone in our lives, but we want to have healthy and realistic relationships with people in our lives. So that pervasive realm, you can drop some family members in it. You've probably got plenty of friends in it, and you've probably got some peers at work in it, or other social settings, those general settings like interactions maybe you have with people in social groups, interactions with people you have in church. Another realm I'll throw into this that's not a P, but it's important, and some people have it and some people don't, and I'm not going to tell you this is right or wrong. It's not for me to judge. It's a spiritual realm. That realm where you connect to something more. But I personally put that spirituality piece in the personal realm because, like I said, everyone doesn't connect to the idea of a higher power or God or, how the universe and fate and karma, however you want to label it. Some people don't subscribe to that. And it doesn't make them good or bad people, by the way, if you do or you don't. So for me, someone might have said, oh, Maya, you didn't speak anything about spirituality. I put that in the personal realm so you can inventory and decide where you stand on that and if it's important to you. It's not for me to decide that for you. It's only for you through this journey of figuring out what your ambition is, and you're pulling back that veil where it fits for you. We're pretty much more than halfway through the podcast. Like I said, we're about to hit 20 minutes, and it's going to be a 30-minute podcast. So we've talked about the realms, and I said that there's not equal importance with all of them, and I think that's important to understand. So for some people, to be honest, family has not been their rock. They don't have good family experiences. In fact, most of their family experiences have been poor with mother, father, siblings, cousins, whatever the case may be. And maybe they developed relationships outside that had more meaning. Again, the label of family can take on whatever you want it to be. It may be people that you have no blood relation to, that you have built these amazing relationships from, that you feel that they help you serve purpose. They fill a void of meaning for you. And you've connected with them on an emotional or mental level that you have not with people that you're actually related to. Family for you is how you define it. But you have to understand that family is something that you make of it. Or maybe you're in a process, so you may decide as you look beyond your veil that there are some family relationships that you want to address or even repair. Sometimes in adversity, more often than not, there's this awakening about, oh my God, I need to go talk to so-and-so. Seeing all this destitute and death and loss and seeing so many people suffer emotionally has made me decide I want to go build a bridge over troubled waters or repair something. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But evaluate the reason you want to change that relationship. That'll be a different conversation about the bridge over troubled waters that is relationships. That's a whole nother podcast within itself. But often in times of trial and tribulation, that type of mindset or emotion can kind of jump up. And it can be complicated because there may be reasons why there aren't good relationships in your life. And it may not be 100% you. It may not be 50% you. I always tell people when there's disparity in relationships, I feel that percentages are less important opposed to just getting to why something doesn't work and how that's important to you. And if you feel there's a need to change it, value, or reclaim that relationship. Percentages doesn't matter. I was 50% right. I was 50% wrong. It doesn't matter. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. Ownership, accountability is more important. So just know that within those relationship realms, importance is different. So family isn't everything to everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that. For some people, they take greater pride and interest in their professional realms if they're successful at work. Not so much necessarily the relationships, but some people have great work relationships. And sometimes that can be good or bad because you can bring too much of your personal to work. And that could be, depending on the quality of personalities of people that you're dealing with, it might be okay. But other times you may have that person who is gossipy, busybody, that can take what you feel is a positive thing that you're putting on the table and can make it a negative. So I always say it's important to make sure you understand the nature of the environments that you're acting in so that you don't make yourself more vulnerable to others when you shouldn't. But some people value that professional realm more than they do their private family realm. They get satisfaction from work. It makes them have a sense of purpose. They feel that success and completion. Again, there's nothing wrong from the fact that you might find that type of satisfaction. Someone will tell you, well, I think it's ridiculous that you don't find satisfaction in your relationships. I would tell you, go back and evaluate if you don't find satisfaction or have not had success in your personal and that personal private realm to figure out why. Because when you seek to find success or a sense of purpose or meaning, but more important, value outside of yourself, and again, outside of yourself is often relationships with others, or it could be the relationship you have at work with being successful at your job. I still feel that you could be running from something, but it's not for me to judge. It's for you to evaluate through this process and this journey we're going to have, and for you to determine if you think you're running from something or are you running to something? It's just a different way you're getting there. That's the other part of these realms, is if you're running from or running to something. Are you running to the person you want to become? Or are you running from the person that you hate that you are? Really important to determine that. So when you talk about the levels of importance of your realms, if your pervasive group somehow, if that need to be socially accepted, and I see this a lot on social media. I don't have 5,000 friends. I have 5,000 people that I connected with on Facebook that we might have shared something in common and felt that it was worth kind of sharing with each other. It doesn't mean that I think these people actually really, it's nothing personal, care about. I think people might care if I live or die, but there isn't that connection with someone I've never met. And some of my Facebook friends I do know personally, others I do not, and have actually watched through social media their lives. And when they have a loss, I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, I do feel their pain. I tend to feel the pain of a lot of things, to tell you the truth. There's something about the life force that's very strong for me. I promise it's got nothing to do with Star Wars, but it probably does. I get very connected with people very easily, not in the sense that it tears me apart, but I do feel people's pain. And when I see that, I'm like, this is so sad, because often, even when I see people's pain, I often feel like at the same time, I can see a way they can alleviate that. But it's the heavy lifting for a lot of people that complicates their ability to have satisfaction and success. I'm going to take another 2-second break, sip on my coffee, and I want you to think about that. It's often the heavy lifting that people have to do that's going to impact their satisfaction and success in their life. Okay, so when we talk about these realms, I think it's important for you to understand, to identify where are you at in these different realms and what are their level of importance for you? And is there relevance? Is it because your professional life is more important with you because you feel like your private personal realm is in a good place as a significant other with your, with your siblings, your parents. So you feel like that piece is tucked away so I can really focus on other realms because I feel like I've got a solid foundation. Or is that level of importance of another realm because you're reluctant or you've had failure in other realms. So hence, this is the one you're the most successful at. And you feel like I have more control, I have more autonomy, I can do more here. And this is where I'm focused. Understand the reasons for our level of importance to make sure you're not trying to overcompensate because you've undercompensated in other areas. Also understand the influencing factors that impact every single realm that you function in. Those influencing factors are your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, your financial health. Those are all key things. Because let's be honest, when you're mentally in a bad place, which means, maybe you've got a lot of stress going on, it can affect, obviously, your physical and emotional health. These are all interconnected. But each one of these factors clearly dial into and plug into how well you're able to relate to yourself as well as others. So if you're mentally disconnected from you, chances are you're not mentally connected to anybody else. If you are emotionally disconnected from you, then chances are you're emotionally disconnected from others or you struggle within relationships. If you physically have health issues that constantly keep popping up, or maybe you have poor self-image, you don't feel that you're attractive enough based on what other things' attractions are. All these things play into how you actually manifest in each one of your realms. Do you exude confidence? Do you exude, commitment? Are you constantly working to be better? Or do you settle for less because you don't think there's anything more from you? That piece, that physical piece is influenced by so many things. This is why I say your influencing factors that kind of touches on all those realms are interconnected. And financial, are you always struggling from paycheck to paycheck? Or have you found some financial success? Do you struggle with being able to make the sacrifices that may make today seem difficult, but the future can be better? Remember, when the past happens, it becomes your present at some point, and the future is no longer there because it used to be the present. It's so crazy. Those things, the past, the present, and the future, are continue intertwined on a 24-hour basis. What you think about could happen tomorrow. Tomorrow happens. Does it happen? Because you were future thinking about it. I know. That's heavy. I stole that from Pearl Jam, their new song they have out, Dances with Clairvoyance. It's part of the refrain in the song, and it really hit me heavy. I'm going to take a 2-second sip on that one. That your past becomes your present, and as the present happens, the future is no more, because at one point, your future was waiting to be your present. It's nuts. I'm going to drink coffee on that one. Go check out Dance by Clairvoyance by Pearl Jam. Okay, we're winding down. We've got less than a minute and a half for this episode of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. I hope you've enjoyed this. A lot of chatty talk, but this is going to be the foundation episode of the show moving forward. So we're going to talk about those different realms, that personal realm, which is that private relationship with yourself, that personal realm. Then you've got that private realm, which is family and close friends. You then have that professional realm, which is work relationships and dynamics. And then you obviously have that pervasive realm, which is environments of people that kind of come from different parts and flow into your life, but maybe don't have the same level of importance as more of that private realm does. And many things can fall into that pervasive realm, as I talked about. So that's a foundation piece. Remember, the influencing factors will come up a lot in our conversations: the mental, emotion, physical, financial. And those are the areas where I'm going to pull in the experts to say, hey, today we're talking about this, financial, which right now is a huge one. And I want that to be the next thing that I attempt to kind of jump into, because the financial realm right now is impacting everybody mentally, emotionally, and in some cases physically, because their stress is all get out. I want to bring in someone that's going to help you have tools to be able to assess where you are, determine where you want to be, and then put the blueprint together on how to get there. That's my goal for the next episode. At this point, I don't necessarily have a frequency set up for M.A.Y.A, my ambition, your ambition. I want to at least do it one time a week, but I might throw an extra one this week because I want to get that financial expert to kind of chime in and to share information with my listeners. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to this first episode. Hopefully you'll share and you find value, and do me a favor, post and tell me what you thought about this episode, and if there's anything you'd like for me to attempt to challenge and to share with you. Everybody, until next time, my ambition is your ambition. Let's get the blueprint together.